Welcome to this episode of Metal Tech Alley. I'm your host, Brad Pauman. On this episode, we learn about how one company is taking technology to a new virtual level and how another company is helping save the environment. Students at Mount Sentinel School are embracing a new style of learning that will better prepare them for current and future technologies.
Academy PM Performance and Media is a interdisciplinary, multi-age, cross-curricular learning academy for up to 30 students. We have 27 this year, and they cover a curriculum of Law 12, English, Design for Media, and Performance for Media. And theater production this year. And so all our projects, we've abandoned the timetable. We don't use regular schedules. We don't use regular classrooms. Like if you look around the room around me, it's empty. There's no desks. There's a couple tables and a floor. Students work on projects that integrate all different aspects of those 5 courses, as well as passion projects in anything that they want to do.
It gives us a lot of time to focus on things that we want to do specifically. So there's a lot of flexibility as well as a lot of directed stuff that allows us to be flexible within that. So it's kind of a new way of fitting a standard classroom that's worked really, really well.
My co-teacher, Heather Shippett, and I saw the kids coming. And we sort of looked around and said, we don't have a group of kids that fit into the, like, say, traditional boxes career-wise. And we said, we need to design something for them, because she was seeing kids in the drama program, and we looked around and saw that it was the same kids that were in my digital art class that wanted to learn 3D printing, that wanted to do all that different stuff. So we designed the program for them. And also we've both been looking around for a few years about how do we sort of dive feet first into BC's new curriculum, as well as how do we make a real impact on a deeper impact on a group of kids, and this without a doubt has turned out to be an excellent way to do that.
Well, I'm really into digital art and film and animation, and I want to go into it as a career. And I had been taking a digital art class here called Vamped previously, and I knew that this was going to be able to incorporate my digital art skills as along with theater, which I also really enjoy, and technology and law and English. So I knew it was going to be something really valuable, and I wanted to try out something that was different than the standard classroom.
This program has definitely been some of the most fun that I've ever had in a school. I love just being able to be with the same group of people and just working with these people that I know and that I get to know throughout the year, and I've learned so much in this at the beginning of the year. I didn't know how to use Adobe Illustrator, and now I've designed quite a lot of stuff through it.
Ever since grade 6, when I was in the school play, drama's kind of been like everything to me. Not everything, but it's been a huge part of my life, and I really love it in every way. I want to be an actor when I'm older, and when I heard the Academy was coming out and that it's going to be specifically focusing a semester on these type of things, I mean, it's an opportunity I had to take. So yeah, it was kind of like a no-brainer for me. I'd say that I've probably gotten more out of this semester than I have out of like 2 years combined out of anything else. It's really fantastic. There's a lot of new skills that I learned that don't necessarily have to do with acting, but as well just like doing like Illustrator artwork and media, and we had law. Yeah, law was a very interesting subject.
We have these things called passion projects, which are sort of what we do throughout the year. That's what we want to do. So some people are like starting blogs or making artwork, and I published a book through the passion project. I wrote it, designed the cover, did quite a bit of the editing. My other classmates did reviews of it, and the teacher, and I published it myself through Amazon. It'll actually be out in
I think a lot of them were leaning this direction, and I think what we've done is given them opportunity to explore and figure out, this is the way I want to go. It's a mix of really big group projects and their own individual projects, and finding that balance, but also having the power in our timetable to be able to give kids this huge, big assignment, and if they're overwhelmed, being able to walk it back and take the time to, reapproach it, give them some breathing space when they're overwhelmed, and really getting to know your kids, to know how we can keep them basically gas pedal to the floor. One of the things that all the kids, and I especially, walked away with going to industry and post-secondary and all these places is the question of how is storytelling going to change in the next few years with the advent of artificial, mixed reality, virtual reality, all these different things. And so we're going to, the first thing I've really planned is we're going to kick off the year with an exploration of how do we tell stories and how are we going to tell stories. And that sort of taps into your history, your English, all those different qualities. And then we already have connections in the Lower Mainland for how we're going to do that. We have connections here to work with industry to do that. And we've already got some pretty crazy ideas for an augmented reality project we're going to do in our school. We're going to turn our school into a hide and go seek event, which is going to be fun.
Well, next year's Academy is going to be a lot different than this year's Academy, because what they do is they're trying to change up the curriculum for the Academy so that people who have previously taken it can take it again and get completely new stuff out of it. This year we focused on a play, a massive play that we did. Next year we're going to be focusing on making a film or movie. More of the acting for film side, which is what I want to go into, so that's obviously why I went in it. As well as this year we learned law, and next year I believe we're learning something else. I can't quite remember what it was. History.
Industry is calling for people. There is a need, there is a market for these skills, and more than necessarily technical skills, it's the group work environment skills that people are really, really after, and how do they respond to stress, and how do they work in a team, and how do they plan, and how do they time manage, and all those different things. So they're really excited what we're doing. We've heard more than once, how come this isn't happening in Vancouver or the Lower Mainland? And we told them, you got to come to South Slocan for that.
KC Recycling in Trail is looking to leave a smaller footprint. With newer technologies, they are looking for new processes.
So KC Recycling does sizing of material, such as car batteries, electronics, and CRT glass. We grind up those products, automotive batteries, VCRs, anything with a cord. We either take them apart by hand or we grind them in a mill, and then we ship them out to be reused as commodities. Okay, so yeah, so the lead content is used by tech in their process. The plastic content of the battery, it ends up going to a partner that we use in the US, and they use it as feed for specialty plastics. The electronics, they get sold into the scrap metals market. There's a massive need for this. We divert, just ourselves alone, we divert thousands of tons of material out of the landfills every year. Well, our process is a wet process, so there's no fear of fires or anything like that. We could possibly face challenges with the introduction of lithium-ion batteries into our process, so we have to be very careful about that. So we do a very careful sort and make sure that those batteries end up going to the proper places. We are positioned very well in the Pacific Northwest, and that we're the largest automotive recycler in the area, and also we're in a good position within the province to be able to receive electronic equipment from the EPRA, which is the government-run program that all the material is collected by, and then they're sent to us. So when you try and bring your VCR or old telephone or anything like that that has a cable or cord on it to the landfill, they divert it to the appropriate depot. Here in town it's the bottle depot. It gets packaged and then consolidated and sent to us. So we're in a pretty good position in the Kootenays to be able to receive that material. With the automotive batteries, obviously the lead content and the sulfuric acid content is hazardous to the environment. We don't want that getting into our groundwater at all. So we do tens of thousands of tons every year that gets diverted away from the landfill of the automotive batteries. As far as the electronics go, there are, as industry standards call it, focus materials within those electronics. Okay, so if you think about a circuit board in a piece of electronic equipment, it has a certain amount of lead content in it, possibly, that could, if it does go to landfill, could then leach into the groundwater as well. So, some materials have a small amount of mercury in it, any metals at all, the copper and so on. Obviously, any of those things that we can use is better to be mined. We call it urban mining, right? So it's better to take those metals and reuse them, which then again impacts the global economy as far as the global well-being as far as mining goes of those types of materials. We can reuse those things as opposed to mining new materials.
An engineering firm in Trail is taking design and engineering to a virtual level. Up next, we learn about how IO Design and Engineering is integrating virtual reality into their design process.
IO Design and Engineering is a mechanical engineering consulting company. Our focus is on heavy industry with some municipal aspects to our work. The core of what we do is machine design out of steel. We also have 3D scanning capabilities and design supply, so we will partner with companies that actually produce our designs in order to provide a final product to our clients. And we have research projects in augmented and virtual reality that we're able to bring both 3D scanning data and the 3D models that we develop as part of the design process into both of the augmented and virtual reality environments. What we design is unique equipment out of steel. So this can be anything from a device that's used to lift other equipment. This can be materials handling equipment such as chute work or conveyors. It can be processing equipment that sorts different size or different types of materials. We've been doing a lot of work around equipment guarding, so safety guarding so that people cannot be injured by putting their hands into moving equipment. That's been a really big item in British Columbia, and it's something that WorkSafe BC is really focusing in on, and it fits really well into our workflow with the 3D scanning of existing equipment and then integrating the guard work into the existing equipment as opposed to just putting up perimeter barrier fencing. I think as an industry, we need to be using best practice to differentiate ourselves from anyone else. We need to do a better job, and through really smart use of technology, we're able to do that. So things like the 3D scanning allows you to know exactly what's in the field, as opposed to going out with a tape measure and a piece of paper and writing down a bunch of dimensions. You very quickly realize with the 3D scanning that nothing is actually square or flat or perpendicular in the world that you think it is, and you're measuring it, and then why doesn't it actually fit? So it allows us to develop way better designs, and it's an interesting process because as we continue on, you realize that the whole kind of technology company, that we're almost closer to that in some ways. We have a physical end product as opposed to a digital end product, but it's through really wise use of information that we're able to gain more benefit from our designs. So by building something in a 3D model, we don't just build blocks in the 3D model. Actually, each entity has information that flows out to half a dozen different locations by the end of a project, and they're automatically updated and live linked, and we're able to make way more effective use of the information that we have, inputting it once and using it in 5 or 6 different locations. The virtual reality is a set of glasses that you put on your head, and you cannot see anything else. It's like wearing a sleeping mask, right? You're totally blacked out, and whatever's presented on the screen, it feels as though you're in that 3D environment. And as you walk, if I were to move around with that headset on, the environment that I'm in moves with me. And so you can take someone and we can drop them into a facility at BC Hydro. We can drop them into any industrial environment that we have, whether that's tech or someone else. I can put you there, but you've never left the safety of your office. And so there's applications there where we can pull the 3D models that we use on the design side into that environment, and there's applications for, in some situations, the 3D scan data. So virtual reality is a completely immersive environment. The augmented reality actually casts a hologram. So, if you were standing there looking at me with the augmented reality glasses on, you could put a crown on my head, you could, dress me up however you wanted, and the hologram would appear. It's a really incredible region from the perspective that it's a rural region, but if you look at the amount of technical expertise that exists in the Greater Trail area, it's incredible. I mean, there's 5 or 6 well-established engineering companies that have, I'm going to say 8 or more employees here. You go to most small towns in, Western Canada, and you'd be lucky if you had one engineering company that had 2 employees and, was focused on servicing residential construction. I think largely due to the history of Caminco and tech and the smelter in this area, that this incredible engineering expertise has grown up around that. And it's also a very heavily industrialized region between, not only the mineral processing in the area, the wood processing, and tons of hydroelectric facilities, that there's a core of industry here that's able to support that really deep expertise and allow interesting things to, for those companies to explore and grow and push. And it provides us the revenue stream to have an R&D budget to go out and buy a 3D scanner and then figure out what the business model is, as opposed to saying, there's a huge opportunity here. And it's not always that obvious when you start out in these business ventures that this is how it's going to pay off. With the 3D scanner, 50% of our work is in a field that we never expected. It came out of the process later on. And so it's a really fortunate for industry, for anyone considering, coming to the area. You have a ton of engineering expertise in this area that, I don't think you'd really see matched unless you were in a major city such as a Vancouver or a Toronto.
I foresee innovation is a hub for Industry 4.0 related companies. We basically look at 2 different groups. We have what we call our industry partners, which is those that we sell to. And then we have our technology partners, which are those that are part of our hub. They are all related to the Internet of Things, to the Industrial Internet of Things. Specifically in the Industrial Internet of Things, you're looking at things as they connect in an industrial environment and how they communicate with each other using Internet as the medium to communicate, and things and people also to connect to it. So they can be living or non-living items that are connected to that. And by that I mean, for example, if you're in a farm environment and you're looking at agri-tech, a cow can be connected because a cow can have a sensor and you may know the temperature of the cow, the location of the cow, and things like that. So that's why even living or non-living are part of the connection. So what we do is we bring other technology companies that bring services or products to the Industry Internet of Things that match one of our quadrants. And so basically the way we see Industrial Internet of Things is in quadrants. We have data acquisition, so those companies that relate to sensors, actuators, and things like that, and how you acquire the data. Data processing, which has to do with the actual processing of the data or the networking required to process such data. Then we have the data analytics for all of those that are putting together the data and then displaying it. And then the data visualization, which is when you get into more advanced AI and virtual reality, mixed reality, and things like that. So the technology companies that come here are part of one or of these quadrants or more. And they have products, they have grown, they have commercialized their products, but they haven't grown to the level that they can go global or that they can go to large consortia bids, and so that's where we come in. First thing that people ask me, why are you going to Trail? It's so remote. And ultimately, I am a true believer that rural Canada can actually deliver more and better perhaps than certain central areas. And the reasons are a variety of them. You get better pricing for the industrial spaces in which you work. You get very interesting concentrations of talent and resources that you can bring in. Those that are not locally here, or that the colleges are not teaching the right trades or degrees for that, it's very easy for them to come because there's no competition when it comes to pricing, schooling, quality of life, and things like that in a very competitive environment in the type of jobs that they like. So if you were able to find the right type of job for you and live in this place, of course you would come here, right?
I was thinking to move to Canada for the past three years, but I didn't find a right place yet. And that time I found here. Basically, I come back to Brazil after, stay there for 10 days and come back again, open a company and starts to move the things, to move definitely to here. It's a challenge. Okay. It's that motivates me. And we have a lot of challenges in the industry, and nowadays the things are always innovating. We are always having something new that could be done in a better way, that could use less energy or could get better results, and that's that attracts to me, that compels me to do something new, to work hard on something that for me is not work, it's just what I like to do. I started to develop a sensor, an air quality sensor. That's the hardware part, and I developed the case. It's pretty simple so far, but the design of this case, I did it, and that one I printed on Midas. It's a partner of us. Also, I designed the hardware itself, how it's going to work. I learned a lot on this process, and I also started to develop the firmware. That's the software part of this device too. And one challenge I have, currently working, is to align this device with the blockchain technology. Bitcoin was the first application of the blockchain that got to the mainstream, but we can use the blockchain concept for other solutions. And in a simple way, basically, the way we are using blockchain is to create a source-proof database where the data is not modified by other parties, and that database can be shared between, just not for one company or team, but several teams. They can. It's pretty good for sharing data, and not even in one place, but we can share data with any country in the world, in any place. It is not a limit for that. And for the project I'm working with, I'm using this ability to connect the sensors to a blockchain that any other interesting party may have access. We
had the CEO and several of the VPs that came to a meeting in at the Tech Coming Corporations, and the only visit they made was to I4C here to see the different companies that we had here and what we could offer to their company as far as solving problems. And they were quite impressed with some of the technologies that are here. They certainly didn't expect them in the middle of a small town in rural area. And we have everything from people that are doing networking to people that are doing blockchain to people that are doing processing and environmental sensors, water and wastewater sensors. And so that makes it a very interesting mix, because the big difference is that we are willing to work together to solve something for tech. Interestingly enough, 4 of us already have worked for tech in different projects. And we have no problem whatsoever getting together to come up with one integral solution that talks to each other. So I think that's part of also what is happening, that they're understanding that vendors are willing to collaborate. There's no limit to technology, that's for sure. I mean, technology has, for I think historically, just in a different speed, has always been part of humans, and now it's just moves at such a fast pace. When it was the internet, before it was the Internet of Things, we had to change every 6 months to a year and learn a new language and learn a new technology and do things like that. Nowadays, you're looking at about 3 months to 6 months on change. So you always have to be learning, always have to be ahead of it. Where it's going is really the mix of how we're going to work humans and technology. This is what we have now to deal with, both from the ethical side of it, as well as from the actual work side of it. And I think those that are able to put together the right combination of that are going to be the businesses that thrive the most, because then you will always need humans too. We are a core integral part of the success of any business, and it will always be that way. And so I think what you need to do is going to be able to find what are those things that make that difference between the two things, and they will become eventually careers and new careers. And so for the young people that may be seeing something like this, it is about thinking beyond the box of the more traditional jobs that they understand and careers to what the future is going to be and how those careers will be modified.
Well, that's it for this episode. To find out more about Metal Tech Alley, or to find out how your business can be featured on the show, please go to metaltechalley.com.